My name is Brenya. I use they, them pronouns, and this is Come Together Counseling YouTube channel. In these videos, I'll be discussing healing, relationships, and the mental health field, all through an anarchist lens. So while you might connect with my approach, please remember we don't have a personal or therapeutic relationship. I'm just a person making videos. I hope you find them helpful. Today's video is going to be about relationship anarchy and loving differently from the norm. So yeah, I think really relationship anarchy is really about applying anarchist principles in relationships, all types of relationships. So I'll also link to my um, anarchist values in as a therapist video somewhere. So it's sort of the same thing, just in like more closer, friendly, intimate sort of relationships. Um, yeah. I wanted to include a history of relationship anarchy, but I think it came out like the term was coined 2005 by um, this person from Norway named Andy Nordgren. So they like made the manifesto. This video is about the manifesto. Um, so I'll just be covering what is in the manifesto, and then I think in future videos I will be expanding and sharing my own personal framework for relationship anarchy. But yeah, I wanted to do the history, and I found I don't know who had been using this term before them, but this form of like more openness and more process oriented, and all the other things I'll talk about in the manifesto portion. Um, People have been doing relationships like that for a very long time, and especially people have been doing that um, like prior to being colonized. Because I think the other piece that's connected to history is connected to like the imposition of certain styles of relationships, connected to the nuclear family and connected to monogamy, and like how that ties in with colonialism. So even though relationship anarchy, the term itself, 2005, living through these values in relationships, I think goes back as long as people have been in relationships. And tell you what, I'll do more research and I'll share about specific models and specific people. And if anyone out there has that information and would like to be a part of a video talking about it, please reach out to me. You can reach out via the About page on my YouTube profile, or in a comment below, whichever is fine. So yeah, let's talk about the manifesto. I'm not going to talk about what's outside of this manifesto. I'm just going to specifically, let's go through point by point, and I'll share my thoughts on each of the points. So first point, love is abundant, and every relationship is unique. And also the manifesto will be linked below. So this is pretty straightforward, just like viewing love as an abundant resource instead of a scarce resource. What gets in the way of this? Well, we have scarcity in terms of money and time and shelter and food and all these other things. So, of course, in a capitalist society, it's very difficult to just be like, oh, I'm going to flip a switch, I'm going to do this instead. But I think for it to be like, hopefully we're trying to move in this direction, viewing love as abundant, because there is no reason why it shouldn't be or couldn't be. Like love can be abundant if we allow it to be. And particularly if we talk about love and like how we're sharing love in different types of ways in different types of relationships, loving different people in different ways, and not loving one person in all of the ways and then not having love for other people, right? So people will have different opinions about can you be monogamous within the context of relationship anarchy. I think for me that question doesn't even make sense. Yeah, I'll talk more about that, I'm sure, another time. But I think also with this context of love being abundant and every relationship being unique, part of that, I think for me, is about being open to what a relationship is or can be that you're in, but then also being open to certain relationships becoming less important or ending those relationships because being more attached to sort of like meeting people where they're at and meeting ourselves where we're at than a particular relationship like needing to continue to exist in a particular form. So being open to things ending. Also, I'll say bell hooks has been very influential for me in like my conceptualization of relationships here. Um, Number two, love and respect instead of entitlement. So I think really of like, again, meeting people where they're at. Like, where is this person that you're relating with? Where are you in terms, and like, where is your overlap? And then you can sort of respect like where the other person can meet you in terms of your relating to each other, rather than entitlement of like, because you're this to me, I'm entitled to this from you. Where like, I did this for you for all these years, I expect this in return. Like thinking of relationships transactionally, I think trying to move away from that, trying to move away from these like expectations of like giving and receiving, and more so in terms of like, what does it make sense in terms of our overlap and like what our capacities are and what we're interested in. So the next one is number 3, find your core set of relationship values. So I think in this really reveals how the manifesto is meant to be more of a jumping off point for people to do their own inquiry. Because there isn't a set of relationships. I mean, the thing is, like, you could say a set of values, but there's a lot more that's left unexplored. And so this gives you the opportunity to explore that for yourself. Like, what are things going to look like? I think really it stresses like an inquiry into your own self, being curious about what are your values, working to process like what we've been told by society, and like deprogramming in certain ways from like what we've been told relationships are supposed to look like. Finding what we value outside of this propaganda of what we're supposed to do. What makes you feel safe and comfortable in relationships, and leaning into that. What makes you feel uncomfortable? What is disconnecting for you and your values? Leaning away from that. I think also of, not making exceptions for certain people because of whatever relationship you're in, but to have your values and to be in those values in your relationships consistently. I also think of like, sometimes this gets talked about like unconditional love, conditional love. What do those things mean? I think of it like this, like, there should be conditions, and the conditions should be whatever values, like whatever way you want to relate with someone. Those are the conditions, right? Like, these are my values, these are your values. Our conditions are that we will be consistently engaging in those values. Yeah. Next one, I think this is number 4. Heterosexism is rampant out there. Don't let fear lead you. I think here is really an acknowledgement of patriarchy and how, for me, relationship anarchy really is inherently queer as a form of relating. Queerness is so much more expansive than about like how we individually identify. I think queerness really is connected to like how we interact with community and how we build relationships out in the world. So even if like, you'll only have sex with people who look a certain way, I think if you're really viewing love as abundance and practicing these relationship values, that is inherently queer. But also this, don't let fear lead you, I think are like what we've been exposed to. And I think also like, there being certain rules or laws in society making it more difficult to view love as abundant and to like have multiple people in our lives. And it can be really hard, and there really can be consequences, thinking about like very conservative family members or, bosses. But, to do what you can. I think, I don't remember what number this is, maybe 5. Build for the lovely unexpected. So leave room open for things changing over time. Relationships can be fluid. there can be a lot of different possibilities. You know, have have like an open, expansive view of where things can go, rather than to say like this is what we are, sort of harkening back to love and respect instead of entitlement. So rather saying like we're going to stay here and this is my expectation, and almost feeling entitled in that way, building for openings for things to change, and being explicitly process oriented. So being oriented around like what is our process for checking in, for like possibly making changes. Yeah, being open to just being in a process together rather than expecting a specific outcome. Number 6, fake it till you make it. Pretty self-explanatory. I don't think there is such a thing as making it or like being done, because it's a process and it's ongoing, and we're people and we're imperfect, and we're gonna be, we might mess things up, and that's okay because it's part of the process. So something I tell my therapy clients is like, there's no way around or out of the process if you commit to being in it, right? Like any setback, anything that feels inconsistent momentarily with your values can always be brought back in and be a part of the process of reflection and accountability and living out those values. I think number 8, or whatever number I'm on, I don't even know. Trust is better. Trust is better. There's going to be a narrative inside your head about what the people in your life are experiencing, especially in their relationships with you. And this narrative is going to be influenced by scarcity, which is what a lot of us have been brought up into in our relationships, influenced by capitalism, is this idea of like, you only can have so much of this. And if someone's doing this, it means this about me, about their relationship with me. Especially, I think, people who, had difficulties growing up with primary caretakers. That it can be hard to trust, and I think you see an overwhelming amount of the commentary around non-monogamy is around jealousy, because it's hard to trust when we have grown up without safe connections. So building trust, how do you do that? Giving people the benefit of the doubt, telling yourself in this narrative in your head, I respect how I'm feeling. It's okay that I feel this way. This is connected to like XYZ in my history. In this relationship, I'm going to choose to trust this person, even though it makes me uncomfortable. And so part of that is processing history, and then part of that is people in your relationships, including you, including the people you're in a relationship with, following through on what they say. This doesn't have to take explicitly the form of like, I promise at this time, XYZ. But saying like, if I say like, hey, I'm gonna go to Starbucks, I'll bring you home something, that I don't forget the moment I walk out the door, but that I like remember, like, this is really important. Like, following your word is how you develop trust, like knowing that other people can trust you. Next one, change through communication. I think this is very connected to build for the lovely unexpected and some of the other ones as well. Yeah, just, that change isn't something that happens when we're sort of alone in our rooms thinking real hard. Change is something that happens in relationships when we're talking with each other. And so being clear about that like our relationships change via us being in those relationships and like talking with each other or communicating with each other. Being clear about where you're coming from, being open to hearing things that may be difficult to hear, being open to change and to grow, maybe in ways that feel scary and unexpected. Reflecting together about yourself and about your dynamic with each other, and then just being open to changing, being open to like having specific conversations about how things are going and making changes based on how that goes. The last one, customize your commitments. Basically, throw all those relationship norms out the window and be willing to just see, like, what is the vibe? Like, what are you feeling from this person? What are they feeling from you? What can your relationship look like? If you can think it could be a possible way, you can move in that direction. Because I think a lot of society will say relationships have to, there's like these boxes, like this is this relationship over here, this is this relationship over here, they have these whatever. But really to say, like, really you can do whatever. Like, if you and the other person are agreeing, and like, I think like part of what's missing, which I'm not going to get into as much, is like, what does that look like with young people or people who in some way have inhibited ability to make decisions for themselves, or people who need more support um, in different ways? That this is not really addressing that, which will be the subject of future conversations, I'm sure. Um, but yeah, being open to specific conversations about dynamics, and that being whatever possible way. Um, so, in conclusion, there's multiple different ways to be in relationships outside of the norm. There is a sort of norm of what we expect that will differ culturally. But, it has the general contours of, um, moving towards monogamy, moving towards having a family that looks a particular type of way, and of the importance of that and compared to other types of relationships. So, relationship anarchy is really about coming into our own agency and autonomy in our relationships and saying, like, this actually is how I want things to look. And if we're in relationships with people who care about us, that we can have a conversation about that. Um, Relationship anarchy might be something that is new, in the way that the language is new, but in the way that relating to other people through being process oriented and being open to things being specific to your connection with other people, specific different people, that is not new. And that feels very important for me to express because, like, the way that we do things now, socially, culturally, in the dominant form in society, is not like in any way biological or the way that things are supposed to be, right? Like, we always have been doing things in this other way. And, I think there's a reason why dominant power structures prefer things to look in a very simple, linear way, um, which I'll get into. Um, and because there's the dominant social organizations, and society really is telling us clearly like what things are supposed to look like from their desires and perspective, there's a lot of conditioning that we have, many of us, and it'll look different for everybody. And this is connected to patriarchy. And this is not an easy path to walk, to push against those things. In many ways, it would be easier to be like, I'm just going to do these things, and maybe I'll do it like not as terrible as, it's presented. I'll do a little bit better. But I think really to like completely remake our assumptions and ideas about what these things can be is like really exciting and really scary. But for me, it's one that fosters so much love and connection, which I didn't even think of as being possible before I started to live this way. So, if you're someone who is just now hearing about relationship anarchy, um, something to explore. You don't have to go all in from the beginning, but just to see, like, what connects for you? Like, what do you want to incorporate? And who would be some people you'd want to try that out with? If you're someone who's more experienced, who's been doing this for a while, um, you know, it's tough, but I'm glad you're here. So, yeah, which of these do you connect with? Of all of these, I think 9 from the manifesto that I shared, like, what connects for you? Share it in a comment below. Thanks for watching this video. This screen's a placeholder until I start to accrue more Patreon subscribers, at which point this is where I'll say thank you. Having patrons helps me to continue to make these videos, so if you feel you're getting something from them, consider becoming a patron. And Patreon is linked in the description as well as on my YouTube profile via all my links link. Additionally, if you like this video or share your thoughts in the comments or share this video with other people who might like it, all of these things help to ensure that this video can continue to reach people who might find it helpful. If you live or work in Pennsylvania and would be interested in scheduling a consultation to talk about becoming my therapy client, you can click to my YouTube page and then again click all my links link, and one of those links will be my therapy website, and that's where you can contact me. Say you're coming from YouTube. And if you'd like to contact me about this channel, please use the email that is listed under my About page. Thanks for your continued support. I do deeply appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video.